5.5 years, almost 6 years on this book. All of a sudden, it's a random Thursday morning and you're finishing the book that you have spent over half of your 20s on. I asked for a dummy cover of the book and we're gonna see this together at the same time. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Welcome to this week in my life vlog on the week that I finally submit my debut novel, Theodora's Tea Shop. I'm finally going to submit all of my edits to my publisher, and then after this week basically it's just going to be typos. It's just going to be proofs. Like, this is the official end of editing Theodora's Tea Shop. And if you've been here on this journey, if you've watched this since I started alluding to this project in 2020. When I was working on A Year in Tōkyō, which is my illustrated guide and memoir, I started referencing a kind of witchy project that I was working on, and I was doing research on witchy books. I wrote the very first idea for this novel way back in June of 2020, and I was working in marketing, and I remember standing at my desk and pulling out my notebook and just writing down this idea. And here we are in 2026, this book is coming out this year in July, and we are very, very close to it being done. Arcs are going to go out at some point. I've been giving feedback on the map for this book. We've been talking about like PR stuff and marketing stuff and all this cool stuff. I had this absolutely ridiculous week last week, which I'll tell you about in a bit more detail later. I just worked so much on this book and I finally got it in, and then my editor has had it on Friday and then she finished it today. Again, today's Monday. She's just sent me back the final version of the book. And there's just a few comments left on this, basically just the tiniest little things. And she's asked me if it's okay if I get the book back to her on Thursday. So I'm gonna do my best to edit this book one final time. But right now it's the 9th of February 2026. It's 11:13 p.m. and I am kicking off the very final edit of Theodora's Tea Shop. So first of all, I'm going to start by just going through my editor's notes, and she said that basically she doesn't really have very much. She thinks that I can knock out her last little comments in like a couple of hours. There's very, very few comments on the book. Currently the book is sitting at 118,406 words. And I'm just going to be here on this Monday night at 11 o'clock, as I have been for the past 5, almost 6 years, writing this book in the hours in between everything else. I'm so excited to be done with this story after so many years. I'm so excited that you guys will finally get to read this book. Tonight I'm just going to get through as many comments as I can, and then tomorrow I think I might do a bit of a read through on the book. We'll see how we go. Welcome to Tuesday morning. I hope this audio is going to be okay. Basically, I'm running late, which is typical. So you're going to watch me do like the world's quickest makeup. And Mabel wants to come inside, of course. I was up late last night doing the book. I got through a bunch of the edits, but I didn't get through all of them. All right, we have the most slapdash makeup ever, but at least I look a little bit awake. Anyway, I have an appointment, have to go get my glasses sorted separately to that, and then I'm gonna go to the library to work on this book. And I got through a bunch of the edits last night, so I did a bit, and I kind of have this process where I need to read through all of the edits before I can even get started, because I think if I don't have a bird's eye view on everything, I get a little bit overwhelmed. So I went through everything. I just quickly did the easy ones, and then I think going through on my tablet and just editing out the last little bits. And then the thing that I'm wrestling with is, do I reread the whole book again? Because my editor, I can tell, is not under the assumption that I'm going to be rereading the book again. So I don't want to like put in mistakes at the 11th hour. It's one sentence I know was deleted in the last edit that I want to bring back in this edit. I'm going to put that back in, and then it kind of depends on how I'm working. Like, if my tablet is handling the edits fine, I'll stay out and I'll work at the library. But if I need to use my PC, I'll come home. I might have time to reread the book tomorrow, but Thursday's a bit tough because I have a deadline this week with a sponsor for a YouTube video, so it's fine. I will work it out and it's gonna be fine. I'm overwhelmed. I'm juggling several different deadlines at the moment, but right now I just have to get up to North Adelaide, go to my appointment, go to the optometrist, and then I can grab some lunch and head to the library and do this edit. So this particular day hit me really hard and quite by surprise. As I mentioned earlier, I had a diabolical week leading up to this, where the week before was the end of the bulk of the work of this edit, and we got to the point where the previous Thursday, the document had like 7,000 revisions on it. It had track changes for a number of the edits we'd done. It had 600 comments on it still, and the document was so slow just from like a software perspective that it actually slowed down the process of editing it to a frustrating degree. So I had a day the Thursday before where I worked from 9 a.m. up until 3 o'clock in the morning, because that was the morning of my deadline. I think it was like at 10 p.m. that night that I said to Tyler, I think this is going to be a really, really late one, but I need to get this book done to the best of my ability so that it's on my editor's desk by maybe it was the Friday morning or the Thursday morning, I can't remember now. So I worked from 9 a.m. up until 3 a.m. just because the document wouldn't load properly, and I didn't even manage to get everything done because it got to a point where I had to just stop and send it off. And so even though I only had like a couple of hours worth of tweaks, there were a few things that I felt had been left undone from the previous week's edit that I wanted to go back and check, and I'm very, very meticulous with this stuff. So if the editor gives me 3 things to do, I'll go and I'll edit 17 things. Like, it gets to a point where I need to step away because I could probably edit this book until the end of time. And this has been a mammoth task over the course of so many years. Like, from the beginning of this idea back in 2020 up until now, it's been over half of my 20s. I have lived in this world for years. I have problem solved and brainstormed and imagined bits and pieces of this story and this world for years and years and years of my life. You know, you guys have watched this journey where for months I thought the book had failed, and then, you know, I got an agent, and then I thought the book had failed, and then we got an amazing publishing deal, and the roller coaster of this has been so insane. And for some reason it really caught me by surprise, but when I was sitting in the Mortlock chamber doing the very last few edits of Theodora's tea shop, and after this point there were still more typos that I fixed in this vlog, and I know that I'll be doing proofing in March when the book comes back to me. I'll need to double check for typos and tiny little mistakes, but I was sitting in the Mortlock chamber and I had this real sense of, oh my god, the book is done. And it just hit me out of nowhere. And I set up this shot because I wanted to have a shot of me like quickly packing down my stuff. I had no idea I was going to suddenly get really, really emotional. Like, that was literally just like it came out of nowhere. And I had this real sense of, oh my god, it's almost over. And even now, it's been a couple weeks since I filmed this clip, I still feel really emotional about that because I've been in this world for such a long time and I've worked so hard on this story. But yeah, I had this real moment of, I did it. It's finished. It's this mammoth task is done, and the novel, after so many years, is complete. I shut my computer, I went and caught public transport home, and I did my emails, I emailed my publisher, and it was this amazing feeling of, that's it, the book is done. Today was such a weird day. It just absolutely took me by surprise. I did not expect to get emotional in the library, and then when I was on my way home, I was getting emotional again, and then I received the typesetting of the book. So I received a screenshot. I don't know if I can share it yet, but I received like the 3 different designs for how the layout is going to look and how the chapter headings are going to look. And it was a really hot day today, so I felt quite overwhelmed and overheated, and you know, I was running around in the heat. I did like 18,000 steps or something, and I had a bunch of work to get done. And so by the time I finally got to my edits, it was sort of later in the afternoon that I was in the library finally working on the book. So I had planned to finish the book, save it to a USB, go get it printed, and then what I do to save pages is I go to print the PDF and then resave it as a new PDF, but with 2 like A5 pages to 1 A4 page, so that when I print the book double-sided, it's a quarter of the size, so that it's not just completely wasteful every single time I'm printing this. I'm trying to reduce the number of pages as much as possible. I couldn't do that on my tablet, so I had planned to print it today, but I will print it tomorrow morning, and my intention was to sit down and write my acknowledgements, but I've sat down at my computer right now and I couldn't even write a sentence. I'm staring at a blank page that says acknowledgements and I can't do it because it's the final thing. I think I need to have one last read through, just one last look at this book, because I have looked at this book so many times and I've edited it so many times and I've restructured it and I've replotted it. And I've mentioned my process for writing this book has involved me starting the book again from scratch many times, because every time I wrote the book early on, I could sense that I had something that I liked, but it just wasn't there yet. The plot wasn't concise or interesting enough yet. It wasn't bold enough yet. And I knew that the best and easiest way for me to do that, for me to learn, would be to start again and rewrite entirely from memory. And so every time I would finish a draft, I would put it into a folder on my computer, and then I would replot the book from memory, and then I would start again, and I would start again, and I would start again. And it was this ridiculous process that made me learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Hello everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm going to be printing my book today. So I have sat with this decision. I'm like, do I really need to reread the whole thing? Do I really need to step back and print it and reread it? And I think if I don't do that, it's gonna eat away at me, right? If I don't do the final little things that are gonna make me feel better, it's gonna eat away at me. So I'm gonna go on a drive because I'm a bit dramatic, but I'm gonna go to the place where I used to work to print this draft of the book because I think that's meaningful. I had meant to do this the last time I printed it the other week, but ran out of time because I had to go to the closest place and not the place where I used to work. But anyway, I'm gonna drive there, I'm gonna print the book, I'm gonna read the book today, I'm gonna write the acknowledgements, I'm gonna send this off to my editor, Annie. I came back here for the first time in 8 years a few weeks ago, so the band-aid is kind of ripped off already. I have been back here. I have actually seen some of my old co-workers. There might be one person, actually, a friend of ours is maybe here today, I don't know. I get nervous before I do stuff like this, but anyway, this is symbolic, this is significant. We're doing this because it's meaningful, because I used to stand at that counter at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday morning, having gotten 3 hours of sleep, because I was commuting from where I lived, which is way further out than this. It would take a 40-minute car ride to the train station. Train would take an hour and a bit. So that was my commute to uni, and then in my third year of uni I lived in a share house not too far from here with a bunch of co-workers who also worked here. So it was me, Tyler, and a bunch of our friends. I hadn't come back here, as I said, in 8 years. This was my second time because I had to buy a pen to help edit T-Shop. Anyway, why am I nervous to go back to the place I used to work when I was a teenager? 3.5 years I would turn up and sell computers and paper and print stuff for people, wanting to be an author the whole time. I thought of almost nothing else than wanting to be an author. So I'm gonna go print this book. Wish me luck. I'm sure it'll be fine. We're all done! The book is printed! I didn't see any of my old co-workers actually. It was all new people, which is so strange because I worked there for 3.5 years. That was my third retail job. I started in an ice cream shop when I was 15, and then after that it was the discount clothing store, and then after that it was this. And this was the job that took me through uni and the half a year after uni before I moved to Japan. And so Theodora's tea shop is all printed. I am going to head on home and then read this guy. It is Thursday morning, currently 9 a.m. and this edit on the book, please don't eat my breakfast. This edit on the book, well, all of the changes are written onto the document. Let me show you. These are all of the changes. Maybe, oops. All of the changes, I know. It looks like a lot. It's actually not a lot. These are the fiddliest, tiniest little things to change. Things like I used the word gently twice, quite close to each other, and so like you wouldn't clock it if you're staring at a document for a long time. But yeah, I reread this whole book yesterday, the entire book in one day. Took a long time. Finished at like 3 a.m. It's 120,000 words, so like, I don't know, that takes an average reader 8 hours or something to read, I think 120k. Anyway, I need to get this done quite quickly because I want my editor to have enough time today during the work day so that she can look at this, because she goes on leave after tomorrow, so we have a really hard deadline for this one. I'm not used to working with people on the same time zone as me. Normally I'm working to get a video off to a sponsor, and my sponsorships manager, for example, lives in Canada, and so I can work up until basically midnight and send stuff off to him and it'll be ready for the start of his workday, whereas for the first time in my life with my creative stuff, I'm working with people on like basically the same time zone as me, and so the actual normal person work day is actually at play for once. Anyway, got some toast. I'm half asleep. I just walked into like, I was holding a box just before and I fully walked into a door, so my depth perception is gone. I'm tired. All of a sudden, it's a random Thursday morning and you're finishing the book that you have spent over half of your 20s on. God, I have worked so hard on this thing. Like, I literally can't conceptualize having done anything more than I've done. As I've mentioned in previous videos, so many years of typing into my phone while I was stood by my desk or walking to a meeting or working on my lunch break or getting up at 5 a.m. I got up at 5 a.m. so many times while I was working full-time and trying to do the YouTube channel, and I think I've read this book about 15 times. Every draft I've done, I'm calling this draft like 8.6 or something. Let's ignore all the drafts I've done with the publisher. I think every draft I did like 3 or 4 passes on the novel. I have gone over it again and again and again, and I have learned so much. And I chose to write a novel that was a bit out of my skill set. Like, I chose a really bold idea, and every time I wrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it and threw it in the bin and started again and rewrote it, I added to it and I embellished it, and there are so many character arcs here, and the plot is complex and the world is so complex. Like, there's so much stuff I had to cut and simplify. I'm getting that feeling of not being ready to send it yet, and I know I'm being a bit emotional and tired and dramatic, but oh my god. I'm gonna go actually get dressed for the day, and then I'm gonna literally just scroll through this, and then I'm going to send it to my editor, and then I'm gonna write the acknowledgements a little bit later. I don't want her to have to wait for me, so I'll be back in a minute. it is a few days, nope, it's like a week later, and the book is submitted. And dead set, I'm so burnt out and tired. I cannot remember what day I submitted the book on. I submitted the book Thursday, and then I got asked to do a couple tiny little things, just like 3 little things of like, are we gonna do backward and toward or backwards and towards, like with an S on the end or not? Did these tiny little fiddly things. And I also on Friday wrote my acknowledgements, and I cried my eyes out. I cried like a little baby, and I sensed that I was going to have some trouble with the acknowledgements because I just couldn't start them until I was at the very end. Like it felt like the very last thing I was supposed to do on this story, and I wanted to do it at home, like not at the library or anything like that. And it was such a cathartic thing. I've imagined writing those acknowledgements for so many years. I love reading acknowledgements at the backs of books because I love getting a little bit of insight into what the author was thinking and what the process was like. I love reading them, and so it was a real honor to get to write my own acknowledgements. And yeah, I cried so much. It was very cathartic. It was lovely to sit down and write those. I couldn't film it because I knew it was just going to be the most melodrama. On Monday, I ended up going to the beach. Now, I wanted to go swimming. We have a cold current here in South Australia, and so I wanted the like full body shivery swimming feeling. The ocean is a really big motif in this story, and it's a really big symbol for Dot, our main character. So the story really follows Dot and Theodora the most, but Dot is our main focalizer, and for her the ocean is connected with this kind of monstrousness within herself that she needs to come to terms with. The ocean has always been really important to me. If you're Australian, you basically grow up at the beach, like you grow up swimming in the ocean. And yeah, so I went back to the sea. I didn't properly go swimming in the ocean because we had a whole algal bloom thing, so I actually went to a swimming center to go swimming, and then I went to the beach afterwards. And then for the rest of this week I've been doing little admin bits and pieces. There's some marketing stuff that's come up, did emails, we were organizing a bunch of things. Basically I jumped straight into Patreon work, YouTube work, all of the stuff that I had been neglecting because I've been doing so much work on the book. And that's essentially been my life for the past year. I would get a draft of Theodora's Tea Shop. I would put in literally any minute I could, any hour. I would be reading, rereading, checking things, going back, tweaking things. Honestly, I could have edited this book until the end of time, and with every edit I would do a full edit, and then I would go back and I would read the book again, and I would go through with a purple pen, and I did that process again and again and again, and I would finish an edit and then straight away have to dive back into the other work I'd been neglecting, and suddenly I'd be really busy doing that other work, and then I have to get all of it done by the time a draft would come back to me. And this is just one of the things I'm going to need to learn how to do, but I found it really difficult juggling Theodora's Tea Shop and all of my other work, because when I'm really passionate about a project, I'm really one-track mind with it. I find it really hard to come up for air, so I was no-lifing Theodora's Tea Shop, working very long hours, and then I would quickly jump over to my other work, and then by the time my other work was finished, Tea Shop would be back, and then I would go through Tea Shop again, and then I would try and do another half of a draft of Spiegel 10, and then YouTube, and then Patreon, and then basically that's just been me the past year. There's really been no time off at all because I've had so much creative stuff to do. Little Maple has fallen asleep. She is the most precious thing on this earth. I love her so much. Anyway, so to sit here and to have the book be done, it's so weird. It's so weird that the thing I started at my desk, at my job in marketing, at my full-time job, I remember like walking into like in between meetings, I would pull out my phone and start typing. I felt like if I was walking, I could justifiably spend a little bit of time typing an idea into my phone, and I have been with this story for a really long time, and so it feels so vulnerable and so exciting. But in giving the book to the world, it means that I'm kind of stepping out of this world, and I obviously feel very emotional because this book was more than half of my 20s, and I'm clearly very very tired, very burnt out. The book is submitted, and I can genuinely this time take things a little bit easier for a while. And guess what? I asked the beautiful team at Hachette, also we're just going to pause for a second. Team at Hachette and Wildfire, my publishers, have been the most brilliant people. They have been so supportive. They've been so lovely. I've been a part of every single step of the process, the map, the cover. Authors don't tend to get a lot of control over the cover. The standard thing is that the author has control over everything on the inside of the book and nothing of the marketing material, but my opinion has been asked at every single step. I've seen every draft of the cover. I saw all the options. I got to make tweaks to the cover. Like, I have loved this whole process. Like, working with Hachette and Wildfire has been a genuine dream. This whole thing has been a dream come true. And I, in a marketing meeting a couple weeks ago, asked the team if they could send me like a dummy copy of the book so that I could take a picture of it for Instagram, because as of the filming of this, the cover is going to be announced next week. You guys are about to see it in a few seconds, unless you've already seen it over on Instagram. It would have, by the time you're watching this video, it would have gone up a few days before on Instagram. But anyway, I asked for a dummy cover of the book. So I'm about to open this package. It doesn't contain the printed words, but it contains, I think it does, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. This should just be a blank book, but it has the cover on it. So I'm gonna open that now and we're gonna see this together at the same time. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Oh no. Oh my god. Okay, it is a fake book. I had a moment of like, oh my god, is this actually the book? No, this is a completely different. Whose novel have they put this on? I'm sorry. Oh my god. Alright, I need a minute. Mabel, can you stop barking? I'm trying to film something, you know. We're trying to have a moment. You see this book? This is my debut novel. Do you know? You can't read. You don't know. Hello! Here is Theodora's Tea Shop by Christy and Jones, which is me. Look at that cover! Look how cool that is! How incredibly beautiful that cover is. Like, I could not have asked for a more cool or interesting or beautiful cover. I love the symbolism. These here are chamomile flowers. Jacarandas feature really, really heavily in the story. I also, I helped to write the brief for the cover designer. The cover designer is Hazel Lamb. I'll get to her in a second, but I helped to write the brief, and I really wanted some like Art Nouveau 1920s inspired elements here with the border, and because this novel has cozy elements but also darker elements in it as well. Like, I wouldn't call it a true cozy fantasy, although it is very heartfelt, it is very affirming, and I think in many ways it is a very comforting story, but also it has little bits and pieces which are a bit darker as well. So I wanted to make sure that was reflected in the cover, so I asked if we could have a darker color scheme, because obviously the title is already so whimsical. Oh, what a good cover! Like, that's a fucking excellent cover. It's so cool. And the reason why I wanted to bring up Hazel Lamb is because she did the cover design for The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, which I've spoken about a lot on this channel. But the reason why that's significant, I don't know if you guys remember, I made a video of my whole process of getting a publishing deal. And in that video, I spoke about the fact that I always pictured getting my publishing deal like on an airplane. And somehow that actually happened, which is beautiful and bizarre and so silly. But basically, the reason why I had always envisioned that is because when we moved home to Australia after living in Japan, I was unemployed for 3 or 4 months. We moved into Tyler's mum's house. It was a really dark time. I was like really depressed. I didn't want to leave Japan. I loved living there, but it just wasn't the way forward for us. And so we had to come home. I had to start looking for full-time jobs in marketing. I had to grow up and be an adult and do a 9 to 5. And I spent 3 or 4 months trying to find a job in marketing, which is how I ended up flying to Sydney to interview for a role at Hachette, which is my publisher. For those of you who haven't seen that part of the story, in 2018, I got an interview at the Hachette offices and I didn't get the job. And that same publisher is who ended up buying my book ever so many years later. And again, at that time, wasn't very happy. We had absolutely no money. And so I spent a lot of time at the library and I borrowed the book, The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. And I read it during that time and it was huge for me. I found it so comforting. I really loved it. And the cover I thought was so beautiful. And Hazel Lamb is the designer of that cover. And I remember looking up stories and interviews from Holly Ringland, the author, and she spoke about getting off the plane from Manchester and getting the call from her literary agent that Alice Hart had sold. And so ever since basically the month I interviewed at Hachette and didn't get the job, I have pictured getting my book deal, stepping onto or off of or being on an airplane. And so this whole thing is so beautiful and full circle. And to have Hazel have been the person to do the cover design after she did the cover for Alice Hart, and that book affected me so much. Oh, feels really fated and lovely. Anyway, that is the cover of my book. I couldn't be more pleased. I couldn't be more proud. I love this cover. I'm so excited for this book to come out. I think I'm really feeling the full effects of everything finally. I think that I have just sprinted a marathon for so many years, and we've come to the end of this 6-year journey, and I'm so excited that you guys will finally get to read this book soon. And what a massive privilege to have been able to document this for you and for you guys to be here and to be watching this. Like I couldn't be more thankful to all of you for tuning in. Theodora's Tea Shop is done. It's complete, it's all edited. From here on out, it's just going to be proofing. So I'm going to get the book back in March to go through and double check tiny little errors, but the writing and the editing of this story is complete and it's done. And oh, anyway, thank you guys very, very much for watching this video. If I don't stop now, I'm going to keep rambling forever. And also before I go, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting my work. Over on Patreon, we have a whole bunch of lovely bonus content, bonus videos, our book club, our Discord server. I've recently started posting voice notes. I'm probably going to go voice note them now that I've looked at this. If you want to check out Patreon, there's a link in the description down below. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Theodora's Tea Shop is out on July 28th, 2026! Yay!